ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 1 of the series, What If Izuku Became the King of the Curses? So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Izuku Yagi, a normal child born in an unordinary world. The world of quirks and the supernatural. From growing long fingernails and familiars to making tornadoes with your own hands and Norse gods. Izuku Yagi, however, had none of these. The moment when he was announced as quirkless and magicless, he was shunned. Abused by his so-called friends and neglected by his family. His own sister is the bane of his existence. However, he didn't care. He was born unnaturally strong and fast. He also had an entreaty high intellect. He observed quirks and identified it in less than a second. He was even able to identify the weaknesses in just one quick glance. However, the first time he was broken was when he found out his now former girlfriend, Ria's Gremory. He had been dating her for about 2 months before he saw her kissing the #1 pervert, Ise Hyodu. He confronted them and broke off their relationship. That had been 2 years ago. He didn't trust anyone but himself, since if your own loved ones can turn your back on you without a second thought, then he no longer required it. Now, at the current moment, we see him in a classroom at Aldera High School. He was waiting for his pathetic excuse of a teacher to come in. Suddenly, the teacher came in with a stack of papers. "Teacher, today, dear children, you will be taking a test to decide on what will your careers be." Everyone then groaned, "But, teacher, but you would all like to be hero, right?" He then threw the papers in the air with everyone cheering except Izuku. Suddenly, our favorite Pomeranian then stands on his desk and shouts, "Katsuki, oi, don't lump me and my friends with these lump of rejects. We'll get into UA University no problem." The classroom besides Izuku then started to yell at him. Boy #1, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Girl #4, what the hell, Bakugo? Katsuki then lit his hands with sparks and said, "Katsuki, huh? Wanna go? I can take you all on easily." The teacher then notices Izuku's silence and grins evilly. "Teacher, well, it seems like Izuku Yagi is going to UA smirks." What he didn't know was the biggest mistake of his life. He suddenly feels a weight of death on his shoulders. The source is Izuku himself. Izuku, coldly, "Okay, what can you do about it?" Someone whose mother should have swallowed smirks at someone who actually can do things. Unlike most people in this room, I'm not useless. At least I can withstand a middle-class villain, while most of you wouldn't handle a low-class villain. You people are so useless that if you would just take a swan dive off of the roof of a tall building, then you would actually contribute to something. Izuku then glares at the teacher and smirks an insane grin. Izuku, sadistic tone, "Oh, teacher." The teacher then saw all black, while from the student POV, they saw their teacher lodged into the wall, almost into the other room. Their eyes grew wide with shock as they saw Izuku standing in front of the teacher with his fist right where the teacher's stomach would have been. Izuku then looks back at their scared faces and says, "Izuku, tch, pathetic." As Izuku was walking back to his desk, his sister tried to confront his keyword, tried. "Izumi, what the hell, Deku?" Before she could have even finished, her face met a fist. Izumi was then launched into the wall, punch putting her out cold before she even hit the wall. Izuku, injuries, internal bleeding, shattered skull and jaw, concussion, fractured bones, and broken spine from the neck down. Chance of survival, 75%. Oi, you might want to get her to a hospital because her life is slipping slowly. He then gets his stuff from his desk, but his tormentors saw shocked to their very core. He almost killed his sister with just one punch. Katsuki had the terrifying thought of that was simply holding back. Katsuki. No way that damn nerd was holding back. That powerless piece of shit couldn't have. While Katsuki was in thought, the other called an ambulance. Meanwhile, with Izuku. Izuku sighs such a weakling. We see Izuku walking to his home after putting his whore of a sister in her place. When walking under a bridge, he suddenly started to get a headache that got progressively gotten worse, and he suddenly flashed some images in his head. As he was getting these flashes, his fingernails had turned black and grew, along with his getting some markings on his body as well as a second pair of eyes under his own. When the flashes ended, he started to giggle lightly, which then progressively turned into an insane laugh. Izuku, evilly he ha ha ha. As he finished laughing, the lid of a sewer started to lift slowly. Izuku, oh how it's good to be back. I finally have my own body back. Good riddance of Itadori. He then sensed an entity which when he turned to see, he saw a slime coming out and the slime saw him back. Slime. Oh, a flesh bag to take over. Get over here, brat. As the slime rushed towards him, Izuku then absorbed some sort of energy in his hands and punched the air towards the slime. When the air punch hit, it made the slime explode. Not only that, the force was so great, it annihilated the bridge behind them, turning into nothing but rubble. Izuku then observed his hand in slight pain. Izuku, TCH, my body is weak at the moment. My hand can barely even handle throwing a simple love tap. The marking and eyes started to disappear, and the fingernails started to shrink back to normal but remained blackened. Izuku, HM, the UA entrance exam is coming in 10 months. That gives me the perfect time to regain what I've lost. Not only that, I can get rid of the goddamn. He then started to walk back with him, smirking, knowing that his father was there. Toshinori, what was that? He called that a love tap? Wait, what does he mean by regain what I've lost? I have to ask him when he gets home. He then gets a phone call from the hospital. He then picks up the phone. Toshinori, hello? Receptionist, hello, is this Toshinori Yagi? Toshinori, yes, it is. What is the hospital calling me for? Receptionist, your daughter right now is in emergency care, ready for surgery. Her chance to even walk is near none. His world stopped. His beloved daughter having her chance of being a hero stripped away from her. He then hanged up the phone only for someone to say, "Wow, she is weak." Toshinori jumped, turned and saw Izuku behind him. Izuku, guess the punch I gave her earlier gave her more severe damage than I thought. Toshinori then froze at what he said. He then asked, Toshinori, what do you mean punch? Izuku, exactly what I said, All Might. I just simply put your villain of a daughter in her rightful place. Toshinori then started to shake in fear because his powerless son found out about him. Izuku, the supposed ninth welder of One for All, a person who is supposed to be stronger than her father, is on the brink of death from a weak punch. How disappointing. You really sank low so far for a person that used to be powerless, just like me. Toshinori then found himself on his knees, trying to get air from the aura that Izuku was producing. Izuku, now, if you excuse me, I've got to go train this weak body of mine to handle the power I've gotten back. Ta-ta. He then vanished so fast that not even Toshinori could keep up. He then regained his senses and ran towards the hospital. From now on, Izuku will be referred as Sukuna. It has been 10 months since the disappearance of Izuku Yagi. Since then, he's trained and broke his body repeatedly to the point it would take several punches of All Might's strongest attack in his prime to make him feel a tingle of pain. He grew to a height of 6 feet and had returned his facial features. He also named himself back to his original name. Now came the confusing part. When having his memories returned, you would think the King of Curses would return to blood and mayhem. But due to his Izuku side, his ideals collide and it was confusing for him. In the end, he'll still be a hero, but in a different way. It has been 10 months since the hospitalization of Izumi Yagi. The punch her brother gave her was so devastating it shattered all the bones in her body and gave her severe internal bleeding. Somehow, she lived, barely. She was in a coma for about, a month. After she woke up, she was then put into therapy. All Might gave her a recommendation which she accepted. She barely passed, but either way, she's happy she even got in. Now, her, Shoto, Shoka, and Momo are with the teachers to witness the entrance exams. Scene change. Standing out front of the prestigious hero school, it was the one and only Sukuna Ryaman. However, he is somewhat expecting his past to notice him. Mainly his father due to him seeing his markings 10 months back. Suddenly, he heard a voice he wanted to kill so badly. "Get out of the way, extra!" He looked back to see an angry Pomeranian behind. "Sukuna, you could walk around me, you insect." This caused Katsuki to shiver and recoil back in fear. Sukuna grinned and proceeded to go inside. Time skip 3 hours. The written test was now over. When everyone had gotten into the auditorium, they saw Sukuna having his feet propped on a chair sleeping. You see, Sukuna completed all the tests in 10 minutes of the time needed. Sukuna woke up and put his feet down. Soon, everyone got into their seats. Then, Present Mike appeared on the stage. He embarrassed himself on stage. Sukuna had to hold himself back from bursting out laughing. Suddenly, Walmart Metal Sonic had to open his mouth. "Ida, sir, you say there are 3 robots, but on the pamphlet, it says there are 4. Of this is a misinput. Then you should be ashamed of themselves. And you points to Sukuna. It appears you haven't been paying attention. If so, then leave." Sukuna didn't like this one bit. He released a tiny bit of his bloodlust. This caused everyone to freeze in fear, and even the staff that weren't even there felt it. "Sukuna, you should know when you're talking to your superior." Also, I believe Present Mike was going to say about the 4th robot when a mindless flesh bag like yourself interrupted. "You should know your place, you mindless insect." Ida was just shaking in absolute fear. He just messed with the wrong person and was going to pay the price for it. He then sat back down and the bloodlust vanished. Present Mike then said, "Present Mike, well, he is correct. Just avoid the last robot." Everyone then silently went to their area for their test. Ironically, Sukuna was with some of his past in their testing area. He grinned at his plan to sabotage the other students without being caught. Suddenly, the gates opened with Sukuna instantly disappearing. Many students recoiled in shock at the speed of that person. "Present Mike, what are you waiting for? There are no countdowns in a real fight. Go, go, go." Many students then freaked out and started heading into the city. What they saw nothing short of a massacre, robots being in pieces or simply ripped to shreds. For almost the time of the test, all they could find was destroyed robots, making the other contestants have no points. Scene change. In the observation room, the teachers and the recommendation students are watching the exams. Nezu, well, quite an interesting batch this year. Midnight, yes it is. Although, the hottie at Ground Delta is absolutely decimating the competition. The teachers and kids were confused until Eraserhead had said, "Aizawa, Ryoman Sukuna. Quirk, none. Age 18. Currently the number in the exams for both written and practical, breaking records across the board." Many people turned to him in shock and disbelief. This apparent quirkless child broke All Might's record. Then Nezu said, "Nezu, well, let's see what he can do." He then presses a big red button, releasing the 0 pointer. Scene change. Sukuna was having a good time. He had just finished decimating the robot his testing area, causing the others to have no points. Suddenly, the ground started to shake. He looked up and the 0 pointer. He sighed and started growing his stage 1 markings. Observation room. All Might had saw the markings on Sukuna's face and his eyes grew in disbelief. All Might, no way. Inko, what is it? All Might, that's Izuku. Inko, The Todoroki twins, Izumi and Yaoyorozu, had then froze. The boy they though was gone was here right now. All Might, Nezu, please, call him to the office after the exams. Nezu, already ahead of you. Now, let's see what young Izuku can do. Ground Delta. Sukuna then placed his hands in a certain formation and said, Sukuna, domain expansion. Suddenly, a demonic shrine of some sorts appeared behind him. Sukuna, malevolent shrine. The robot then split into several pieces whilst floating in the air. Sukuna, however, was disappointed. Sukuna, really? For a big robot, you would think it would be cut into smaller pieces. Ah well. Sukuna started to walk away when the robot behind him bursted into purple and black flames, vaporizing it in an instant. Nobody had said a word. Suddenly, Present Mike said, Present Mike, the exams are over. Could Ryaman Sukuna come to Principal Nezu's office, please? Sukuna then sighed. Honestly, he thought this was a waste of time, but he thought of the mental breakdown he can put his past into, so it was worth a shot. He then started to walk to the office. Time skip. Sukuna had just arrived at the office. He knocked on the door to hear a faint, "Come in." He opened the door to the staff as well as the recommendation students. He closed the door and looked bored. Inko, crying, slowly walked up to him and said, Inko, crying my baby. She was then hit by such an evil bloodlust that she fell on her knees. She looked up and saw he had his markings on when he destroyed the 0-pointer. Sukuna, wanna run that by again? Sukuna then made the markings disappear and said, Sukuna, I'm not your baby. That weakling died 10 months ago. My name is Sukuna, remember it or else. Shoto had enough, but before he could say anything, Sukuna had punched him in the gut, which caused him to be implanted in the wall. Shoto fell on the floor and fell unconscious. Sukuna, keep your mud on a leash, or I'm putting it down. Shoker rushed to Shoto's aid while Momo had said, Momo, Iken, why did you do that? Sukuna, what? Angry that I hurt your boyfriend. You and you shit friends won't and will never be on my caliber. Call by that name again or I'll skin you alive and make you my breeding whore while I'm wearing it. Got that? Momo, while crying, shakily nodded her head, heartbroken at the sight of her beloved insulting her. This wasn't the same Izuku she fell in love with. Obviously, he wasn't Izuku anymore. Sukuna turned to the staff of Yua then said, Sukuna, is there a reason why you called me? Was it to waste my time, or did you genuinely need me for something? Nezu, well? Sukuna, don't answer me. I know what your answer is. I don't blame you. You don't know. Anyways, see you next week. With that, he then walked out the door. Ryaman Sukuna was annoyed. His former family was trying to get him back, but he always got away. His ex trying to get back together, but used bloodlust to make her go away. The orc following him, although he didn't mind them as he didn't even personally know them. His former friends trying to make amends, but again he always got away. But at least he was in 1A. Now, some Nico and some dragon wielder are following him. He knew it wasn't Issei or the Nico Loli as he knew he felt their presence different yet similar. Right now, Sukuna was walking down the street in his Yua uniform. Suddenly, he felt a bum on his right leg. He looked down only to see a little girl with white hair, red eyes, bandaged arms, and a little horn on her head. He crouched down and she looked at him in slight fear. He then said, Sukuna, calmly, what is wrong, little one? He then cradled her in his arms for him to hear her say, quietly help me. He narrowed his eyes in suspicion. Someone then said, 2. Irai, that's quite rude of you to disturb this man. Sukuna then looked at the voice and immediately recognized the man. The man was the boss of the Yakuza organization, Overhaul. Overhaul, I'm so sorry for he. Before Overhaul could even finish, the top half of his head was sliced in half. His body then fell to the ground before combusting into flames. Sukuna, baka. Sukuna then started to carry Iri in his arms with him whispering to her, "Sukuna, it's all right, little one. He won't hurt you nor anyone again." Iri, for the first time, started to cry silently in relief. For a few minutes she was crying, and when they got to Yua only then she stopped crying to not being able to cry anymore. Sukuna was walking through the corridors with people looking at him with Eri in his arms. He then arrived the Wana classroom to see Momo and Ida there. They saw Sukuna and tried to talk with him only to feel a sense of dread when he looked at them. Sukuna then walked over to the protagonist's seat and quickly went to sleep with a sleeping Eri in his arms. Time skip. Everyone had just arrived to see a sleeping Sukuna with a sleeping Eri. However, they wanted to talk with him as they knew it was Izuku from being told. Before they could do that, a tired voice was heard. "All right, shut the hell up and sit down. Now, I'm giving an automatic A+ to Ryaman sleeping with a child in his arms. Now, get on these uniforms on got to the field." They then started to walk out with Sukuna heading over to Aizawa and saying, "Sukuna, can you watch over Eri for me while I change?" Aizawa, sure. He then handed Eri over to him and headed to the locker room. Location, locker room. Sukuna was getting on his shirt when Bakugo came up to him and said, "Bakugo, what the hell are you doing here, Diku?" I thought. Bakugo was then hit with an extremely harsh killing intent. He was then grabbed by his throat and being choked. Sukuna had his markings while grinning like a madman. Sukuna, "Oh, what exactly can a mutt like you can do? I put that green-haired whore in her place 10 months ago. I won't hesitate to do much worse to you here and now." He then dropped Bakugo while having his markings retracting. Sukuna then left the changing room to the field. Time skip. The rest of the class had just arrived to see Sukuna sleeping again. Aizawa, "All right, we're doing an apprehension test today." Ochako, "What? We're going to be skipping orientation." Aizawa, "Here at UA, we teachers can do whatever we want. Skipping orientation is a rational move to simply ignore something useless. Now, Ryoman, you've got first place on the exams. Throw this ball as hard as you can." Aizawa tossed the ball towards Sukuna with him catching it. Aizawa, "If you stay in the circle, I don't care what you do." Sukuna then released his markings and set the ball on fire. He then threw the ball with it creating multiple shockwaves and a crater under Sukuna. Aizawa then got the results back in his tablet and showed the class. 1A Infinity? Aizawa, "Now, I can tell you're holding back, but honestly, I'm fine with that. However, the rest of you will go all out or you're expelled without question." Mina, "What? That's unfair." Sukuna, "Unfair? Laughable coming from the likes of you Ishido. If you think this is unfair, leave. Yua won't take liabilities like you if you think this is unfair. That's why their motto is plus ultra. So, do plus ultra." Aizawa, "I like the way you think. Because of that comment, the last 3 places will be expelled to general studies. Now you heard me, don't hold back or you're expelled. Today, you'll be taking 8 tests. Now, begin. 50-meter dash Ida vs Ryaman." The two then got into their places, and when the gun was shot, they went off. Ida crossed the finish line with 3:04 seconds, while Sukuna got 0:1 seconds. Ida, "How did he get that score? How is that possible?" Grip strength. Shoji had gotten 700 kgs, while Sukuna broke the damn thing without trying. Sukuna, disappointed so weak. Standing long jump. Sukuna had cleared the sandbox along with Bakugo, Asui, and Izumi. Repeated side steps. Sukuna was going to fast, there wasn't even an afterimage, making him get first with a purple midget getting second. Ball throw. The only one that got infinity, besides Sukuna, was Uraraka. Seated toe touch. Sukuna had gotten over 3,000 before being told to stop. Distance run. Sukuna had gotten over an hour along with Yairazu on her scooter. Sit-ups. Sukuna did 2,000 before being told to stop. Results. Aizawa, now, for the results. First Ryomen Sukuna. Second Yagi Izumi. Third Yayurazu Momo. Fourth Todoroki Shoto. Fifth Todoroki Shoka. Sixth Bakugo Katsuki. Seventh Bakugo Katsumi. Eighth Ida Tenya. Ninth Takoyami Fujikami. 10th Shoji Mizo. 11th Ojiro Mashirao. 12th Kirishima Aijiro. 13th Ashido Mina. 14th Yoraraka Ochako. 15th Koda Koji. 16th Sato Rikido. 17th Sui Tsuyu. 18th Aoyama Yuga. 19th Hanta. 20th Kaminari Denki. 21st Jiro Kayaka. 22nd Hagakure Toru. 23rd Minoru Maita. Aizawa, all right, Kyoka, Hagakure, and Minoru, head to present Mike for your new schedules. Everyone else, there is a syllabus at my desk. Class dismissed. Momo, I thought he was lying. Sukuna already had gotten changed as soon as the results came. He picked up the syllabus and headed to the cafeteria. He then gotten lunch for Iri and himself. Time skip. It was now the end of the day. Sukuna was heading out with Eri in his arms when he suddenly sensed the dragon figure. Sukuna, you can come out. I know you're there. Not surprised? Sukuna turned around to see a beautiful white-haired woman about his age. Sukuna, who are you? Lucifer? Velina Lucifer. Lucifer. Velina Lucifer. Sukuna then narrowed his eyes, a little due to him feeling a certain dragon he killed 1,000 years ago coming from her. Sukuna, I assume that your sacred gear wants to get revenge on me. Velina, what are you talking about? Suddenly, white wings came out of her back and it started to talk. We meet again, King of Curses. Sukuna, damn, it seems as Red has it rough with a pervert. Isn't that right, Albion? Velina then shivered in fear at his voice alone. Sukuna, now, what do you want with me? Velina shook herself and then said, Velina, you interest me. I might consider you my rivals due to that pervert being very weak. Sukuna raises eyebrow rival. I'm the one who practically gave you that power. If there's any rival of mine, it would be biblical God. But he's dead, so I have no rival. Now, since we've wasted time, I need to go home, eat, and sleep. Goodbye. He then left with Eri with Velina somewhat being a little angry. Then, Albion said, Albion, he's right. Me and Didraig were the two strongest dragons of our generation, and even 1,000 years later we still are. Ryomen Sukuna can be said the same. Trihexa itself was even skeptical of the King of Curses, and even God was severely injured by him. The worst part was Ryomen could have killed him with little difficulty, but for some reason didn't. Tomorrow, you will probably see in the freshman's battle training. Velina, I guess. Do you think he can beat Trihexa? Albion, not think. Can and will. Time skip. It was now the second day of Yua. Sukuna was already considering killing his classmates due to them annoying him. He was somewhat grateful that his former sister was avoiding him. Suddenly, a voice was heard. I am. Suddenly, All Might came through the door with his Golden Age costume. All Might coming through this door in a very unconformable way. The class, except Sukuna, were then exited that they were going to be taught by the #1 hero. Then, All Might's wife, Green Telecom, came through the door. GT Green Telecom, why you went through that door like, I'll never know. Today's students, we will be. He then pulls out a card that says, Battle Training. Katsuki, Sadistic Battle. Katsumi, Training. GT, but what is a hero without a costume? She then grabs a remote out of nowhere and pushes a button. A shelf with 19 cases then came down from the ceiling. The students then went and grabbed their cases except Sukuna. The students left including with Sukuna until he feels a hand on his shoulder. Sukuna, if you want to keep your hand, take it off my shoulder, now. All Might then flinches back and Sukuna goes to the locker room. GT then tears up and starts crying. Sukuna hears this, grins madly and continues to the locker room. Time skip. Every member or one were there. However, they saw a few more people there. These people were the orc, Valina, Aizawa, and Nezu. Nezu, where is Mr. Ryuman? I'm here. People turned around to see Sukuna in a robe of some sorts with sandals. Sukuna notices Valina and notes about it. He then notices the orc and his mood immediately drops. Riaz notices him and tries to go and talk to him before All Might started talking. All right. Now that young Ryuman is here, we can now begin. GT, all of you will be put into teams of 2. You will then be selected as either villains or hero and must complete your objective within 15 minutes. Villains will protect a fake bomb, and either they protect the bomb or capture the heroes they win. The heroes will have to capture either the bomb or capture the villains to win the exercise. All Might then pulls out a box and starts pulling out names. Team A, Kodakoji and Yairazu Momo. Team B, Ryuman Sukuna and Ida Tenya. Team C, Sato Ridiko and Aoyama Yuga. Team D, Bakugo Katsuki and Takoyami Fujikami. Team E, Todoroki Shoto and Kirishima Eijiro. Team F, Todoroki Shoka and Kaminari Denki. Team G, Asui Tsuyu and Ashido Mina. Team H, Uraraka Ochako and Bakugo Katsumi. Team I, Shoji Mizo and Yagi Izumi. Team J, Sirohanta and Ojiro Mashiro. All right, now it is time for the villain and hero role. Villains, B, E, H, I, J. Heroes, A, C, D, F, G. GT, it is now time for the matchups. The screen up in the front then shows the matches. B vs D, J vs G, H vs A, I vs C, E vs F. Katsuki then glares at Sukuna, anticipating to put him in his place. Sukuna simply ignored Katsuki, wanting to show who's top dog. Villain team, enter inside. Heroes, you will have 5 minutes to prepare. Once the time is up, you can then enter. Team B then entered. After a few minutes, they then found the fake bomb. Ida then knocked lightly on the bomb. Ida, I assumed so. Look, Ryuman, I know we have a trouble. The moment Ida turned around, he was then implanted into the bomb. A spear lodged into his stomach and making his attached to the bomb. Sukuna walked up and slapped him so hard, the side of his helmet was shattered into pieces. Sukuna, now, a good villain must have a subordinate. You shall be that subordinate. I want you to distract them as long as you can. If they enter the room, I shall take care of them. Do you understand? Ida weakly nodded before feeling the spear being pulled out. He fell to the floor, then feeling his wound being healed. Sukuna, now, go take care of the mutts now, will you? Ida then got up slowly, then ran out of the room. Sukuna then released his inner domain inside the room and went to his throne. He then released his markings, anticipating his enemies. Sukuna, now, I wait. Observation room. Teachers and students alike were now terrified at the level of ruthlessness displayed by Sukuna. Valina then thought, Valina, holy shit, he's ruthless. I didn't even see him throw that spear, nor even see him pull it out. Albion, taking that last part out of context. Valina blushed at what Albion said. One of students were now terrified and saddened at their former friend. Riaz was silently crying at her ex, once the nicest boy in the world, almost kill his teammate. Aizawa and Nezu were now on edge at the speed and strength of Sukuna. However, what concerned them was the different landscape of the room the bomb is in. Time is up. Heroes, you may enter. And thus the battle trials began. With Ida. Ida was running slower than usual because of a goddamn spear being lodged into his stomach Mach speed. He then dodged an explosion and a swipe of shadows. Katsuki, damn it, where is Deku? Takoyami, I don't know. But you go ahead and find him while I handle Ida. Bakugo, good. Bakugo then sped off to the bomb. Takoyami was then launched to the end of the hall by Ida. Ida rushed at Takoyami at a fast rate, not fast enough. Ida then crashed into a wall when Takoyami dodged and proceeded to be bashed into the walls multiple times by Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow then stopped bashing Ida but was still on guard. Takoyami then wrapped capture tape around Ida. Before he left, he saw Ida's eyes that were filled with nothing but fear. Ida, weakly don't go, for your own good. Ida then passes out. However, what Ida said put Takoyami on guard. He then hesitantly went to the bomb. With Katsuki. Katsuki had now found the bomb. However, the moment he entered the room he was found in a different place. He saw a mountain of skulls with Sukuna being on top. Sukuna, you've finally arrived. I've been expecting you. Katsuki, where the hell is the bomb? Deku. Sukuna, TCH, you've never changed and probably will never change. Showing you your place will be the only way you can change. Sukuna then raises his fingers. Sukuna, there are no such thing as second chances for the unredeemable. Katsuki then starts screaming in pain, trying to hold his blood. However, he is slowly losing consciousness due to the rapid depletion of his blood. Takoyami had just arrived, just see blood coming out of Katsuki. Sukuna, oh, it appears the other Muppet has arrived. Would you like to meet the same fate as your comrade or surrender? Takoyami looked at him in great fear and simply passed out from shock. All Might then said, Villains wins. Sukuna smirked at the fear in the #1 hero's voice. He then dispersed his inner domain and his markings. The medical robots then took the injured and starts he going to the observation room. Observation room. Students and teachers were now shaking in absolute fear. Didrag then mentally told Issei to. Didrag, Issei, don't fight him. That's the person that caused me to be here in the first place. He can easily kill you and volley even in Juggernaut Drive, so don't you dare try and mess with him. Issei slowly and shakily nodded his head. Iri, however, had stars in her eyes at seeing her papa being so cool. Sukuna then returned to the observation room and took Iri from Aizawa. All Might didn't even want to go over the MVP and went on to the other trails. Time skip. After Sukuna's win, the villains had a majority win with a 3-2 record. They all then went back, got changed, and went home. However, Sukuna was called to the office for a hero conference. It was the afternoon and everyone had gone home. Except Sukuna. He was called to the office for a discussion with the teachers about something. He assumed it was what happened during his battle trail. At least he put the mutt in his place but didn't kill him. He then arrived at the office with Eri and knocked on the door. He heard a feint come in and he opened the door. When he came in, he saw the U.S. staff, the seniors from the battle training, and a red-haired man with armor. Nezu, Mr. Ryoman, thank you for coming. Sukuna, you're welcome. Now, I believe there is something you want to talk about. Nezu, quite correct. You see, during your exercise you've managed to put 2 of your classmates in a critical condition. However, Mr. Ida has only a few broken bones due to Mr. Tokoyami. Now, care to explain why you put Mr. Bakugo in such condition? Sukuna, that mutt needed to be put in his place. A hero acting that would put the lives of civilians is something you of all people should know is not acceptable for the business. He needs his behavior to be one of respect, not one of a villain. Nezu, but you appeared to be a villain during the exercise. Sukuna, because I was on the villain team. It was my duty to protect the bomb. I did that. Great villains don't care about civilian lives. They could and can exploit the weakness of the heroes not killing the villain when necessary. Bakugo didn't use his time to attack me. I simply talked. He could have attacked me, but I simply took advantage of the situation and injured him. Now answer me this. Markings appeared on his face and caused a massive amount of bloodlust. Sukuna, why did you allow villains to be in the academy? Why did you allow such incompetent parents such as All Might and Green Telecom to teach here without a license? I understand he has that little time limit of his, but I can tell he'll be late to classes if there was some sort of villain attack. The lives of students in his grasp gone in an instant by his own stupidity. The markings slowly disappeared. Sukuna then said, Sukuna, is there anything else? Nezu, yes, that man right there wants to talk to you. Nezu points to the red-haired man. He then walks up to Sukuna and says, Hello, my name is Surzech's Lucifer. I'm Riaz's older brother, and my parents told me they have a proposition. Sukuna raised his eyebrow. Surzech's, they want an arranged marriage that Riaz agreed to. She said that you agreed to it, but Riaz started to sweat a bit at being found out. Surzech's, I believe what my sister said was a lie. I know you are formerly Yagi Izuku. My sister was crying when she said you cheated on her, but my spies said differently. Apparently, she was the one who caused you pain, and for that I'm sorry. Sukuna, the hell you're sorry for? You haven't done anything bad to me. Surzech's, my sister has done such a horrid thing to you. I want to give you comprehension. I want you to have the Mustafu territory, something Riaz now formerly owns. Sukuna was then grinning like crazy, and they glared at Riaz while grinning like a madman. Sukuna, it appears lying came yo bite you back. Very well, I thank you, Lord Lucifer. Surzech's, please, call me Surzech's. You're the king of curses. You killed the original Lucifer yourself 1,000 years ago. If you could, can kill me here. Sukuna, I'm the reason why Valina and the pervert have their sacred gears. Those dragons weren't even difficult, and they were apparently the strongest of their clan. Now, I hope we have a good relationship. Surzech, likewise. With that, Sukuna and Iri had left the office. The next day. It was the next day. Bakugo was still in the infirmary. Ida was fine but needed rest yesterday. Sukuna's former friends tried to make him apologize only for Kaminari to go to the infirmary. Aizawa then came back in the classroom and said, Aizawa, as you all know, I've witnessed your training from yesterday. Where is Kaminari? Momo, he's in the infirmary, sir. Aizawa, he annoyed Ryomen. Speaking of whom, you did the best at being the villain yesterday. The rest were decent. We will change that. Now, it's time for class president. The students then got out of their seats and were shouting to pick them. Sukuna didn't care for the role but was annoyed by the yelling, so he released his bloodlust, and that caused the others to quiet down. He then retracted his markings and said, Sukuna, how about you all just vote instead of shouting that you want to be picked? Aizawa, you're very rational. Choose a vice because Ryomen is the class president now. 1A, huh? Sukuna, he said choose. Now do it. The class nodded, very scared of Sukuna. After 10 minutes, Momo was elected as vice president. Then they went to lunch. Cafeteria. At the moment, Sukuna was feeding Iri. Many of the students took pictures due to the cute sight. Wana had tried to approach him only for Valina to cockblock them. She then sat down at the available seat. Valina, so, how was your day? Sukuna, got chosen as class president. Nothing special besides feeding Iri here. Valina had just giggled and said, Valina, you know, you're a good father. Iri, yeah, Papa is the best. Papa? They both looked over and saw Sukuna EXE not working. Iri then started to wave her hand in front of his face. Iri, Papa's not working. Valina giggled, yes he has. Suddenly, an alarm started to go off with it saying something about a level 3 threat. Sukuna then got out of his daze and grabbed Iri and Valina and vanished. He appeared on top of the hallway entrance and released his bloodlust. The students stopped and froze in fear with Wana thinking. 1A, how is it worse? Sukuna, silence. You're being idiotic to notice it was the press outside. Go to your classroom before you lose a limb. The students then hurriedly but safely went to their classrooms. However, There was one thought going through Sukuna's head. Sukuna, if what is going to happen if I think is going to happen, then I shall spill blood. It was a new day at Yua High. However, there was something that Sukuna was feeling ever since yesterday. He decided to leave Yurei with Velina since he could trust her. He was in class when Aizawa came in and... Aizawa, all right, today we'll be going to do rescue training at USJ. Kaminari, whoa, Universal Studios Japan. Aizawa, wrong, but it would be interesting to do rescue training there. But no, it stands for Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Many students were excited for the exercise, but Sukuna, I have a bad feeling about this. Aizawa, get you costumes on and head to the buses outside. Time skip. The students were now outside the bus with their costumes on. Ida was trying to get them into a seating position until Sukuna grabbed his throat. Sukuna, I believe I'm the class president, not you. Get inside the bus before I put you into the short bus. Ida nodded in fear for his life. Sukuna drops him and Ida runs in the bus. Sukuna then boards the bus and sits next to Asui and Kirishima. The bus then started to go. About 10 minutes later, Asui then asked a question to the person that everyone that wants to connect with badly. Asui, Izuku. Sukuna, it's Ryomen to you and the clowns you call friends. Asui, sorry, Ryomen. I was just wondering where did you get your power from? Sukuna, that's none of your business. Keep bothering me and I'll have your tongue as a scarf. Understand? Asui nodded while having tears running down her face. Before Shoto and Katsuki could escalate anything. Aizawa, shut up, we're here. Now get off the bus. The bus came to a halt and sure enough they have arrived. They got off the bus and saw another teacher there. It was the space hero, 13. While Uraraka was fangirling over her, Sukuna was just thinking. Sukuna, that fact that I used to be like that 10 years ago makes me want to vomit. Aizawa then went over to 13 and whispered. Aizawa, where the hell is All Might? 13 just held up 3 fingers. Aizawa had widened his eyes a little before motioning Sukuna to come over. Aizawa, that moron All Might used his time limit. If there is going to be a villain attack, I give you authorization to take them down. Sukuna, don't expect me to spare a few. Then they all went inside. They all saw the glory of Ustj at the top of the stairs. 13. Welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Each zone is specifically designed to simulate each disaster. All of your quirks are unique but dangerous. You must sometimes hold back to prevent the casualties of civilians. The lights started to flicker on and off. Sukuna notices a purple opening at the middle of the square. Sukuna, I called it. Kirishima, whoa, they even got fake villains. Sukuna, no you idiot, those are real. The class started to get scared when they saw an army coming out. After a minute, there was about 100 villains at the square. Villain, hey, where's All? Before he finished, his life was cut short by a knife being inserted into his left eye. Before long, the purple mist then went to the top before the students could escape. Greetings, students. My name is Kurajiri and my job is to spread you out. Katsuki and Katsumi then rushed and exploded. However, Kurajiri was unscathed. He then sent his mist onto the students. When the mist cleared, a majority of the class was gone, but Kurajiri was still there. 13 then started using her quirk on Kurajiri, but he opened a portal behind her and it started to rip her apart. She then fell to the ground almost dead, but Sato and Takoyami distracted Kurajiri to let Ida escape. Kurajiri cursed himself and teleported and down to a man covered in hands and a monstrous hulk. When he arrived, he saw him scratching his neck. How is this brat wiping out our fodder? Kurajiri, Master Shigaraki, a student has escaped. Shigaraki, doesn't matter if reinforcements get here, there's a person already taking care of them. He pointed at Sukuna, who killed several and severely injuring the rest with just hand-to-hand combat. Shigaraki, Nomu, take care of the brat. I'll handle Eraserhead. The Hulk-like being, now identified as Nomu, rushed Sukuna at blinding speed. Before Nomu could punch him, he was then sent back at greater speeds than when he ran. Sukuna landed after he landed a kick on the Nomu with him having his markings appear. Sukuna, pathetic. Nomu again rushed Sukuna and started to barrage Sukuna with punches. Sukuna, however, was dodging with ease. Sukuna had enough and roundhouse kicked the Nomu back. Sukuna then summoned fire and formed it into an arrow. Sukuna, die. He then let the arrow fly. Within a fraction of a second, it hit the Nomu. It caused an explosion that had the fire destroy the walls of Ustch in the explosion's path. Shoka was looking at the fire in great fear, while Shoto was livid at the heat and size of the power that Sukuna had. The same can be said for Katsuki. Shigaraki, how? There's no way. You cheated. That was supposed to kill All Might. Sukuna, All Might is weak compared to me. He can't even hold a candle to me even in his prime. Face it, you lost. Shigaraki was about to attack Sukuna until he had gotten a vision of something that terrified him to his core. Shigaraki was frozen in shock. A second later, he felt getting shot in his arms and legs. Kurogiri was about to teleport until he felt cloth wrap around him. Aizawa, forget about me. Aizawa then knocked him unconscious. The staff and cop then cuffed the villains that were alive and put the dead into body bags. All Might had just arrived before being kneed in the stomach. He fell on his knees and got kneed in the face. He fell on the ground holding his bloody face. He looked and found Sukuna that looked pissed off. Sukuna, today is exactly what I had just said back at the meeting. There were plenty of heroes to handle the villains in the city, but your idiotic mind didn't think of that. Either be a teacher or a hero. You can't decide to be both at the same time. Sukuna then walked away. What people don't realize is that the media will find out about what Sukuna did. For that, his name shall strike fear. The aftermath of Usti was astronomical. The media reported about the lack of security of UA, but that really wasn't the topic. They reported the man by the name of Ryomen Sukuna killing several villains. The public was divided on this. Some called him a villain. Others feared him for his brutality. The heroes didn't know what to do about him, but they wanted to stay clear of him. However, that didn't matter to him. He only wanted to change society by drastic means. Going peacefully wasn't going to be an option. He wanted to get rid of this corrupt society, but since it wasn't going to be changing anytime soon, he was going to be abusing it to his advantage. UA had given every student 2 days off, so Sukuna during that time decided to adopt Eri as his daughter since she see him as a father. He quickly became Aizawa's friend too. Now, everyone had returned to UA. Wana was in their seats when Aizawa came in and went to the front. Aizawa, it's dandy that you came back. Now, in 2 weeks' time you will be participating in the sports festival. Kaminari, shouldn't we not do that? Aizawa, damn, you really are an idiot. This sports festival had outshined what was now the former Olympics. Heroes from across the country will recognize your ability. You only have 3 chances, so you better make it worth your while. You will be given 2 weeks off classes to train for the festival. Although, I already know who'll win. Class dismissed. The class had then gotten out of their seats when Katsuki had opened the door to see students blocking the way. Katsuki, what the hell are you extras doing here? Is Class 1 really that ignorant and cocky? A tired-looking purple-headed boy then came to the front. He then said, You know, if you people fail horribly at the festival in 2 weeks, then you just might get kicked out and replaced. The class was about to retort until Sukuna said something. Sukuna, you're so full of shit. The classes then turned to him in shock. Sukuna, I can tell you're the type of person that's all bark, no bite. You won't put in the actual work to do something because what? Your quirk is too weak? Now you've annoyed me enough. Step aside. The classes then fearfully moved out of his way. until an arrogant blonde prick tried to irritate him. "Man, you wanna prick are really cocky. I can't wait to knock you down a pea." He didn't get to finish as he felt immense pain in his chest. The one responsible was Sukuna putting his arm through his chest. "Sukuna, silence, you mindless vermin." He then ripped his arm right out of his chest, letting the prick fall to the floor, slowly dying. "Sukuna, one of you, take the prick to the infirmary. You've pissed me off and you're holding up students that are trying to get to classes. Now leave before you meet the same fate." The students then ran away while an orange-haired girl took the dying boy away. Wana looked at him in shock and fear while he was just walking away with his daughter. Time skip. It was time to train. Even Sukuna decided to do something different. He started to take up kenjutsu and taijutsu. He took up a katana and was an amateur at first, but became decent at it at the end of the first week. For him at least. His taijutsu, however, was astronomically intense. Even the cameras in the area he was training couldn't even keep up with him. This was only by the end of the second week. He was able to dodge and counter spears and bullets with a second and keep up with just his eyes closed. Then there was Yagi Izumi. Because of the injury Sukuna had her almost a year ago, she wasn't able to hold on Ofa too long. Her max is about 20% and really couldn't get any higher for some reason. She created a style that would have spread Ofa throughout her body. The Bakugos have slightly bigger explosions while Katsuki was having a temper tantrum for being weaker than the Deku. The Todorokis have stronger fire and have complete mastery of their ice, but Shoto was seething at the Deku's fire being way stronger than they even his father's. Time skip. Later that night, when Sukuna went to sleep, he suddenly appeared in front of some people. In total there was 8, while one seemed astral. "Yagi Izuku, we meet at last." Sukuna twisted his face in disgust at hearing his old name. "Sukuna, I no longer go by that name." "Doesn't matter. Why are you going to kill Toshinori and Izumi?" "Sukuna, you perfectly know why. They're corrupted with greed, so they need to be taken out." "Why?" Sukuna turned his attention to the only woman in the room. He saw her with tears going down her face. "Why must you do this?" "Sukuna, who are you?" "Shimura Nana, your grandmother." "Sukuna, shut it. I'm not blood related to that blonde idiot or that woman, so don't you dare call yourself my grandmother." Nana then silently cried harder. "Sukuna, now, why is the brat losing her life force? Is it normal, or is she a special case?" The other users then widened their eyes in shock. Sukuna grinned at finding out a secret. A quirk user who inherits one for all will lose their life force when get it. A quirkless user won't have that problem. Sukuna, however, was silent. He then started to giggle until it started to go on to a full-blown laughter. Sukuna, ha 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 ha. That moron really did kill his daughter, huh? Ha 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 ha. Why are you doing this? There's a better way. Sukuna, you don't get it, do you? This society has nothing good in it left. I know there are better ways, but they are less effective. Striking fear onto the hearts of everyone to keep them in line will certainly do the trick. The quirkless are dying each day and are ridiculed each day. That needs to change. Now, you've bored me enough with this useless conversation." Sukuna then swiped his fingers horizontally and the mind scale instantly vanished. He released his inner domain and sat on his throne. He then grinned an evil grin. Sukuna, well, tomorrow should be interesting. So, this was the end of part 1 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.